US President Joe Biden reaffirms his decision to run in the upcoming president election and defends his rocky campaign.
Europe is suffering under a heat wave with temperatures topping 40 degrees in some parts of the continent.
Spain celebrates as the national team returns to Madrid and visits the royal family following their Euro 2024 victory.
President Joe Biden has reaffirmed he is still in the running for the upcoming US presidential election and defended his rocky performance. In an interview, the presumptive Democratic nominee, whose checkered campaign has been dominated by verbal slip-ups, said it's his job to get this done.
I'm on the horse. Where have you been? I've done 22 major events, met thousands of people, overwhelming crowds, a lot happening. What I'm doing is going out and demonstrating to the American people that I have command of all my faculties, that I don't need notes, I don't need teleprompter. I can go out and answer any questions at all. And I stood there when NATO was in town. I stood there for an hour and answered questions.
The US president made headlines at the Washington NATO summit when he incorrectly referred to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Biden is expected to attend a convention this week to convince African American and Latino voters, a key voting bloc, that he should remain in the White House.
Arriving to rapturous applause, Donald Trump appeared at the Republican National Convention with a bandaged ear after a would-be assassin's bullet grazed him during a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday. At the conference, Trump officially secured the presidential nomination. Earlier, the former president nominated Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio as his running mate via his Truth Social platform. As he entered, Trump shook hands with a large number of supporters. He sat down next to his new running mate to listen to the speakers on stage at the highly anticipated conference.
Romania is suffering in the heat once again as temperatures reach over 40 degrees Celsius in the shade. The emergency services have been inundated with people affected, while freight trucks are being pulled over for safety and trains are running at reduced speed. The heatwave is also straining the nation's energy system, with production not able to keep up with consumption. That means that power blackouts are increasingly frequent. In Ukraine, locals are also suffering. While doctors often recommend staying indoors during extreme heat, this advice is impractical in Ukraine. Russian missile attacks have destroyed much of the country's electricity generation capacity, preventing the use of air conditioners.
Оббиваємо фонтани. Більше п'ємо, більше гуляємо, тому що у квартирі набагато жарче, душно, і більше ми хочемо на вулицю, на природу, ось так.
In North Macedonia, efforts to put out wildfires on Sirte Mountain in the Negatino region are continuing. Helicopters and firefighting aircraft are being deployed in the extinguishing operations. At the worst point, the country's crisis management centre said that 7 wildfires were active across the country.
The first plenary session after the European elections is taking place this week in Strasbourg. And the freshly elected MEPs will face a first crucial vote on von der Leyen's re-election. She appears to be in a good position to continue as president of the European Commission after her meetings with the so-called moderate platform. She has got the support of the EPP, SD and Liberal groups. But the vote on Thursday will be secret and some of the 720 MEPs may not follow the group's guidelines.
This is what everybody is talking about at the moment, that she needs this famous 361 seats to reach an absolute majority of the members of the European Parliament in order to become the next Commission President. And this is her only shot. If she fails, then the European Council would have to come up with an alternative candidate, and that would delay this institutional turnover quite significantly.
Von der Leyen might need the support of other groups to ensure her re-election, like the Greens, who are demanding her to stick to the Green Deal.
The Greens have not declared themselves, so there is doubts on who they will support, whether they will support her. Broadly, it will depend on parts of her political manifesto, but also more generally about the line that she will decide to draw between the far right, particularly on policy issues. It will be for these groups particularly the support of the implementation, the continued implementation of the Green Deal, but also maintaining pressure on the rule of law. That will be crucial.
Von der Leyen could also get some votes from the ultra-conservatives of ECR. They are one of the three parties from the extreme right, alongside Patriots of Europe and Europe of Sovereign Nations. But the Socialists and the Liberals have made it clear that they would not accept any kind of structured cooperation with the far right. On the other side, during this constitutive session, the MEPs' vote for President of the European Parliament should be much less controversial. Incumbent Roberta Metsola from the EPP is the only candidate for a second term, probably for another 2.5 years.
Will the left-wing coalition, the New Popular Front, or the NFP, that won the most seats during France's legislative elections, finally agree on a name for the future prime minister? The alliance, composed of the hard-left France Unbowed or LFI party, the Socialists, the Greens, as well as the Communists, has been squabbling over who to present as candidate to lead the future French government. On Monday afternoon, the France Unbowed, the hard left party from the alliance, said that they will be suspending all discussions, blaming the Socialist Party for sabotaging the negotiations. This comes after the Socialists vetoed on Saturday the candidacy for Prime Minister of the former MP Huguette Bello, who had overwhelming support from the France Unbowed as well as the Communist Party. And the first public session of the French National Assembly, that's the lower house of French Parliament, is supposed to be held on Thursday. So the left-wing coalition is really hoping to find a candidate before this date. And in this tense political climate, this Monday morning, the Court of Auditors presented its annual report on France's public finances. And the report of this country's budget watchdog describes the situation as worrying due to the fact that there was the COVID-19 pandemic as well as extremely high inflation. And the Court of Auditors warns the French government that the situation could further worsen due to the unstable political climate that is unprecedented in France's modern-day history. Sofia Katzenkova reporting from Paris for Euronews.
The town of Wiesbaden in southern Germany, known for spas and hot springs, will now be the headquarters of NATO's efforts to support Ukraine's military. The alliance is setting up a command center at a U.S. Army base. It will organize training and equipment donations and be led by a 3-star general. A Ukrainian MP with President Zelensky's party, who is also fighting in the military, says the center is an extremely welcome sign.
We most certainly need those people that have produced those munitions and have utilized those munitions in the past to try and train and teach that to us. But again, I know that is, for example, my comrades who have received the basic training in different NATO countries, and it has proven invaluable to them.
The center was discussed at last week's NATO summit in Washington. The alliance declared that Ukraine was on an irreversible path to membership. One foreign policy expert cautioned that there could be limits to that statement.
It will hopefully inspire confidence in NATO's support for Ukraine. But at the same time, everyone knows, including Ukrainian politicians, that US domestic politics will decide Ukraine's NATO membership.
During the summit, the U.S. also announced that it will deploy long-range missiles in Germany. Russia says that it will provide a military response to the news. A Green MP, who's a deputy member of the Defense Parliamentary Committee, says that Germany must rearm itself.
This is one of the realities of the 21st century. It's not a very good thing to see, but it's just necessary. It would be much wiser if we would live together in peace on this planet But this is currently not the case, so we need to prepare.
Ukrainians warn the support from NATO does not decrease their concerns for their country's future.
The reality is, even though we have received all kinds of support, it is certainly not enough as far as battling the war machine that Mr. Putin is bringing together against us.
NATO says the command center in Germany will enhance its support of Ukraine, but not make the alliance a party to the conflict.
Spain started their celebrations for the European Championship triumph with a visit to the royal family in Madrid. The team gave King Philippe VI a number 4 jersey reading Kings of Europe. King Philippe VI, Queen Letizia and their 2 daughters, Crown Princess Leonor and Princess Sophia, greeted and chatted with the players and the technical staff. After visiting the royal family, Spain's triumphant national football team held a victory parade through the streets of their capital city, Madrid, after beating England 2-1 in the final of Euro 2024. The bus tour ended at Plaza de Cibeles, where Spanish fans had gathered to cheer their victory. Spanish captain Alvaro Morata brought out the championship trophy to the stage before the team came out one by one to celebrate.
Hoy ha pasado un día espectacular, ha sido la mejor celebración que se podía realizar. Esto es inolvidable, toda esta gente se merece lo mejor, el equipo es impresionante y dentro de 2 años nos vemos aquí con el Mundial.